My earliest memory of my mom, I can't forget it. I was sitting on her lap in the front seat of the car, and I was 3 years old and I couldn't figure out why she was telling me she hated me. My stepdad always made sure I knew he wasn't my real dad. He would look me in my eye and tell me things that would hurt my feelings, and then he would ask me how that made me feel. And I was so young, the only thing I knew how to say was that it hurt my heart. From the time I was 4 years old, I was always left alone while my parents worked. But I was scared and lonely being alone because my brother went to school, but I was more scared of when they came home because nothing good ever happened when they came home. I remember one time my dad was beating me, and my mom was in the next room, and she was just sitting there eating cereal. And I remember I would beg her to tell him to stop hitting me, or I would beg her to stop him from beating me, but she didn't do anything. She just sat there and ate her cereal. My whole childhood, I was either trying to earn my parents' love or avoiding them in my room. It seemed like everything I did disappointed them. By the time I started school, my whole self-esteem was wrecked. My parents told me that there was no such thing as friends. I couldn't have friends and they wouldn't be there for me. Before long, I was having
big problems at school.
School was always a struggle for me. I was getting terrible grades, all D's and F's. Not because I was stupid or anything, but there was just so much going on at home. I had a hard time focusing, I guess. I'm sure the teachers at the public school were good teachers. They just didn't have the time to get to know me as a person, or to understand why I was getting bad grades, or why I was always so angry. I also struggled at making friends in school. I had a hard time in general forming healthy relationships. It was just easier to keep people at a distance. It didn't take long before I had fallen way behind in my schoolwork. Once I had officially lost hope of ever catching up in school, things went downhill pretty quickly. I didn't see any reason to try, so out of my anger I would have outbursts in class. When these outbursts became too much for my teachers to handle, they sent me to Basher. Throughout the rest of middle school, I was back and forth between Basher and the public school system.
I was placed in anger management classes as a 7th grader, which honestly kind of pissed me off.
Things didn't get much better when I started high school. Class was boring and I was behind before I started. I decided to either sleep through most of my classes or just skip them altogether.
A month into my freshman year,
I had officially dropped out of high school. I made the official decision to drop out of high school and my mom kicked me out of the house. With no place to go, my father in jail, and my brother in jail, I decided to stay at my brother's girlfriend's house. Over the course of the next year, I lived in 8 different places. I would work random jobs just so I could make money for drinking, getting high, and tattoos. Somewhere between the drugs, tattoos, and partying, I realized that that's not the life that I wanted to have. It was during the time that I was living with my boyfriend when I got pregnant. I realized that I needed to make a change for not only my life, but also for my baby's life. I was thinking about going back to school when I learned about a school that my boyfriend's sister went to called The Crossing. I didn't think it would really be an option for me because I couldn't afford tuition. That's when I learned that the school helps you pay for tuition. I couldn't believe I was accepted, and they were actually willing to help me pay for school, so I applied. I could tell that there was something different about The Crossing
from the first day I went. I started off a junior, but I only had enough credits to be considered a freshman, so I think that's what had me a little frustrated coming in on my first day to The Crossing. I wasn't really connecting with Apex, and I was getting frustrated. So my teacher, Ms. Doyle, pulled me aside and asked about my day and what was bothering me. And ever since then, I knew there was something different about The Crossing. She cared more about me as a person than she did about my grades, and that actually meant a lot. And I think that's what made my grades go from F's and D's to A's and B's. The coolest thing about the crossing is actually hanging out with my teachers out of school. Like, it's more of a friendship than just a common relationship with a teacher and a student. Me and Mr. Smith actually went on a double date together with him and his wife and me and my girlfriend. We went to Hackers and played putt-putt. That's pretty cool. And him and Mr. Swanson taught me a lot about life and a lot about God, put me on the right path, and showed me a lot. It seems like they're more family to me now. Mr. Smith is really like a big brother to me. The crossing has been the one place in my life where I'm away from drama and violence. It isn't like public school where you're fighting every day and people are talking rumors. My life has focus now, and for the first time in a long time, I'm on track to graduate. And I don't think a year ago I would be able to say that if I still stayed in public school. So my life's in a very different place
because I came to the crossing.
Now everyone knows Mr. Staley is kind of known for being crazy. And one of those crazy things to me is how he promises every crossing graduate that if they go on to a post-secondary education and if they love God, then he will hire them at the crossing.
I took his offer up and I now work at the Napanee Crossing as a teacher's assistant. It was kind of weird going from student to teacher at first, but the crossing staff has treated me as an adult from day one. They say once you're a part of the crossing family, you always are, and they mean it. I've been through a lot in my life, and I work here because I want to use my story to help girls through what they're struggling with.
God had turned what I always considered to be scars from my past into blessings.
I can honestly say the only reason I'm alive today is because of the crossing. Not only am I alive, but my life is going somewhere, and I know that I have a purpose. My long-term goal is to earn my bachelor's degree in nursing and maybe even work in a depression unit. I would like to have a stable marriage, a stable family, a nice house, and maybe have 12 kids. Thank you, Crossing, for saving my life.